When two hearts are destined to be with each other, no distance is too far, no time too long, and nothing can tear them apart. Meet Laura Mukaya, a registered nurse by profession, and Stanley Mukaya, a pharmacist who have been married for over 35 years and have 4 children, all Ivy League graduates with successful careers. Being that they both came from 2 continents apart, the distance proved that love knows no boundaries and that it travels as far as you let it go. We walk down the memory lane of this enthusiastic duo as they share with us a few nuggets of wisdom from their marriage. Manchester, a thriving, prosperous northern hub, best known as the cultural and commercial capital of Northern England, it is also home to the celebrated football club Manchester United. 44 years ago, Stanley, a 22-year-old man then, traveled 7,080 kilometers away from his motherland, Kenya, to this great city in search of education. He did very well in exams and was accepted at Manchester University to study pharmacy. It was during his studies that he met Laura, a 19-year-old Jamaican student who was also studying nursing at the same university, in church, and the two began their journey of love.
We have been married with my husband Stanley for over 35 years. I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in the UK, in London, and I've lived in Kenya for most of my life. I was just 19 when we met. We attended the same church. We were both students at the time, and we were going home separately. And then he built the courage to speak to me, and then we started communicating.
We were just generally good church friends. We used to go out for seminars, for youth outings organized by the church. And gradually we just kept knowing each other more and more, just like casual friends, church friends.
Unfortunately, Stanley finished his studies and had to return to Kenya, while Laura remained in the UK to complete her studies. The two were now 12,655 kilometers apart, and back in those days, there were no mobile phones to ease communication, which posed a challenge to their bond. And the two used letters to express their love to each other as they eagerly waited for the day when they shall be reunited.
When I finished my studies, I came back from the university abroad, and because there were no phones then, most of the correspondence was done by letters, like one of these. She used to write a lot of information. This one is written 23rd June 1977. We were just friends. There is also another one that she wrote in 1976, actually. This I should have started with this one. Maybe I can just read a sentence. Mpenzi member, how are you keeping, dearest? It's now 5:40 a.m. and I am at my table writing to you. I went to the youth party last evening and I got back early. I would have enjoyed it more if you were there, especially when they were playing those beautiful Christian songs. So this was a letter she wrote after she had come to visit us as a family in Kenya in 1977, and she was going back.
I can just read a sample of one of the letters he wrote to me. It was on the 31st of January. Hello, darling. I was rather unusual, but I had to phone you this morning. I was sure you would be sleeping or just woken up. It was bothering me, you see, to find that quite a few days had passed without hearing your nice voice.
I think there was a time here that we were together, and she had to go away, and then she says here that I think this will be the loneliest year of my life. I hope it will go so quickly. and it won't be long before I'm back with you again, because I will be back to you within the next 2 years at the most. And then she goes on to say, Stanley Mokaya, I will be Laura Mokaya by the year 1979 or 1980. This was written to me from Laura from Manchester on 2nd November 1978. Mpenzi, member Mpenzi, and she goes on, writes here, and writes, and writes, and writes, and says, yours forever, Laura. After I came back from my studies in the UK, I did invite her, and I think there was a time here that we were together, and she had to go away, and then she says here that I think this will be the loneliest year of my life. I hope it will go so quickly, and it won't be long before I'm back with you again, because I will be back to you within the next 2 years at the most. And then she goes on to say, Stanley Mokaya, I will be Laura Mokaya by the year 1979 or 1980. Speak my local language, but they could of course speak in English. They had a chance to see an individual from another continent, another culture, and they kind of thought, well, it seems like this could be a good person for our relative. The proposal, as she was trying to say, wasn't like a one-day event. It was a process whereby, through communication, by letter writing, that we just agreed that, oh, well, I think we are meant for each other. So after we agreed and we convinced our relatives that it was a good choice, and we loved each other, and we thought that we could get along well with the help of God, it happened, and it was happening by letters, by correspondence. Not even by phone. Actually, it was a long-distance proposal, because by then he had come back to Kenya and I was still in UK. He proposed to me and I accepted, because as said, we've known each other for a long time. So we thought we were making the right choice, because in life you can never be sure about anything, 100% sure about anything. And I've not regretted my choice. I've not regretted accepting the proposal.
This dedicated couple tied the knot in Kenya on the 19th of August, 1979. And just as they have managed to cherish their love during all these years, they have also carefully stored their wedding attires. My suit was also bought along Oxford Street in London. I bought it specifically for that day. I bought the suit for the wedding and a different suit for the evening party. Coincidentally, or incidentally, those suits could fit me today, the ones that I wore. And one of them, actually the one that I wore in the evening reception, I still have it, and I wear it from time to time.
Yes, I still have my dress. It's not as white as it was then, but it's still there. I like the way it fitted, and I like the material. It was heavy lace. And it was nicely fitted, and it was, in our church also, we do not expose too much, and it fitted very nicely. It came up to the neckline, and the sleeve was good, so I felt good in it. I have here a copy of our wedding card. This is how they used to be, very simple.
Pastor and Mrs. Jackson Mokaya, Mr. and Mrs. M.I. Jameson, Vachikire, so and so, Goika Senyangi, Yeah, Manamabo, this is the Kisi version and then the English version on the other side. Yeah, 1977.
But you can put ugali inside, and it's supposed to keep the ugali very warm for even 2-3 days. The brown ugali. It was a wonderful day. I think, of course, our wedding was not as elaborate as our daughter's. In those days, people did simpler weddings. But it was nice. It went well. We enjoyed ourselves, and our families were happy. And we treasure the pictures. In fact, one of the pictures right behind us. His family were more than mine were attending, so we decided to do the wedding in Nairobi rather than in UK.
The idea of tribal marriages, I think those days are gone now. If people love one another and they have the same ideas, the same goals, same aspirations, same faith, they have a common bond, it doesn't matter where you come from, you will still make a good, successful marriage. The tribe gone are the tribal marriages. Some of the children, even these days, who are married to people of the same tribe, don't even know the language of that tribe. So I think we just have to know that we are all human beings, wonderfully created. And if you get somebody and you love each other and you can cope together, tribal or racial marriages or relationships should not be a hindrance these days.
Coming up next.
We come from different backgrounds and different expectations. So initially my challenge was fitting in.
And then.
And I tried to cook for them. They refused to eat the food because they were surprised that their dad all of a sudden is taking up the role of a maid.
Laura had to leave Jamaica, her motherland, to live with her husband in Kenya, 12,655 kilometers away. This was a painful decision, and during her early years of marriage, she had to deal with adjusting to the cultural expectations of the Kenyan people.
For me, my initial challenges was ours, as you've realized, was a cross-cultural marriage. We come from different backgrounds and different expectations. So initially my challenge was fitting in, but it was made a lot easier because my husband's family were supportive. His parents were very supportive. His relatives were supportive. I found it challenging because initially we used to go to his home on a regular basis, and some of his relatives would insist on speaking Kisi, which I had no idea of. Okay, I can now communicate in Kisi to a certain extent. So I found it a bit challenging because sometimes it was more like they were talking at me, not to me, because I wasn't following a word. So that I found a bit challenging because I like to communicate when I understand what you're saying. But now that is in the past. I've learned Kiswahili, I've learned Kisi. Because of our Christian pattern, it made it a lot easier to settle down and to move along together.
In addition, Laura had to deal with her husband's busy work schedule that involved traveling a lot. This became a challenge as Stanley apparently spent less time with his family.
When we started, I had a very busy work program. The company that I was working for had a very demanding schedule on employees, and I had to travel quite a lot. So that traveling out of Nairobi, out of the country, out of the continent meant that I wasn't spending as much time with the family as I would have wished to. But the times that I was in Nairobi, I tried to be with them and go out with them and make sure that they're provided for. So it was a challenge in terms of the time that I was always away in a young family. We were sometimes, when you are out there, you know, we didn't have the mobiles that we have now. You just hope that everything is okay. So that was a challenge to me. And of course, as a growing family, you can imagine everybody experiences the same. You as the head of the family, you want to provide for your family in terms of food and the school fees and housing. and of course medical and so on and so on. So all these challenges were there. But somehow we managed, thank God, we managed. We were able to set our principles and our goals, and we focused, and here we are. I remember when Kemunto and her siblings who were small, one time one of the maids we had just suddenly disappeared. I'm sure it happens, or it used to happen during that time, and I came home for lunch. She was at work then, and found them locked up in the house. So they are not eaten because the maid had taken off, and just locked them in the house. And I tried to cook for them. They refused to eat the food because they were surprised that their dad all of a sudden is taking up the role of a maid. And I realized, so this is what these kids have been thinking about. So we tried to therefore make them be as self-reliant as possible. And my children now, they can also they can live independently, they can cook, they can do everything without really feeling that they need the services of a maid. It was a question of balancing between work and the family. But over time, I think they understood me, and they knew that I would go out and I would come in. At the end of the road, there was always bread on the table, as it were. And we thank God for everything.
Like many young couples that have issues in money matters, Laura and Stanley had to devise a financial plan for their marriage's stability. They share with us some insights on how couples can be successful in managing their money.
Right from the word go, we knew that we are a unit. My husband and I, we're working for the same goal, which is our family. My husband's a good manager of finances, so we pool our resources together, and he does most of the management. Well, he's the head of the family. I accept that, he's the head of our family, so we work together. For major purchases, we discuss. For small purchases, we can do individually, but major purchases, we discuss. But the important thing is pull your resources together. I know a lot of young people these days maybe think I'm a professional, he's a professional, my money is my money, his money is his money. But for us, we pool our resources together because we know that everything we do is for the benefit of our family, is for the good of our family. And if at some point in your marriage you find maybe your partner is not as careful with finances, and your children will go without school fees or something, then you can be a prudent wife and agree with your husband, why don't we have an education account for our children? So
we don't have secret accounts that she doesn't know or I don't know. It is just from the word go. As soon as we got married, I changed my accounts and added our name to it. So our salary will come to that account, my salary will go to that account. As she has already said, my wife has already said, she entrusted me then and now and all the way throughout with the actual management of the family finances. But what I would like to add here is that besides just having a joint account, I'm not saying you must have a joint account, but it really helps because it means you trust each other. We trust each other. You try to live within your means. You do the budgeting periodically, either yearly or every 6 months or every 3 months or every month. You don't try to compare yourself with somebody else, your neighbor. If one has to budget an item, be it a house or a car or a TV or anything, make sure that it's within one's means. Over the years, I've learned to make the statement that if you can, avoid taking too much loan, too much credit, especially if one cannot service it properly. Because obviously, the interest element can become a problem. One of the major issues that I have come to realize as an elder in my church and in society is that financial issues lead to breakages of marriage. And unless couples start well, this is one of the one of the biggest challenges that actually threaten marriages, whereby you find that the husband is accusing the wife of favoring the other side of the family, or the wife thinking that my family members are taking too much advantage resources, because maybe my brothers and the sister will come and stay with me, and she will think, we're buying food here, we're buying sugar. My wife was not feeling envious that my brothers are coming to stay with me, and therefore the food that we had budgeted will take a week is now being consumed in 2-3 days. So financial issues are very important. Plan and live within your means. Avoid competition with your neighbors or your friends or office mates, and always plan to be generous even with your relatives, and also remembering the less fortunate in society.
I think you keep secrets when you're not sure of your partner. Once you're sure that the person you have chosen is the right one for you, then you don't need those secret accounts. Because if I need anything big, I would discuss with my husband and we would agree together. Because if I'm keeping a secret account because I think when I need something big, he will not agree, it is going to cause us a problem anyway. Because if I went out and bought a car and brought it home and said, this is my car, I know he would not be happy. So I would still discuss and say, I think I need a car of this type, and we would agree, and we'd go and look at the car together and buy together. Whether he pays or I pay, it becomes immaterial at this point because we are in agreement. So I wouldn't recommend secret accounts, and living within your means that he brought up is very important. I know there are many things out there that attract our eyes, and there are many things being pushed at us by adverts, but always try to live within your means. What is good for your family, not what your neighbor has or your community expects of you. We have always tried to live within our means and live modestly, and I think that will help. It'll help older couples as well as younger couples to avoid financial difficulties and financial frictions.
Coming up next.
When we walked down the stairs, I felt a bit weepy.
So there's so many emotions going on. They say when you leave your family, and
Still ahead.